Hey y'all, I'm Paula Deen, and today is a very special day for me because I'm gonna be cooking up the recipes that my mama and my grandma raised me on. And you know, my mama would not cook a meal without a potato being there. So I wanna share with you her mashed potato bake. And once you try it, I'm sure it'll show up on your table year after year. And then I'm gonna go back to the early days when my grandmother fried chicken in a very special way. And I can't wait to share with y'all what her secret was. And then I'm gonna be putting together a simple, tart and tasty cucumber and onion salad that was on our table with every meal. Well, maybe except breakfast. And then to top off this meal full of memories, I'm gonna be sharing my Grandma Paul's red velvet cake with you. Recipes this good will bring tears to your eyes. Y'all grab your loved ones and let's take a trip down memory lane together, because today is definitely a family affair. It's about something that's near and dear to my heart. Today we're visiting Grandma's kitchen, and I don't have to tell you how much my grandmother meant to me. She made a living with her food. She fed us, her family. She taught us how to cook, and she gave me choices by taking the time to pass her love of food on down to me. But do you know, Grandmama would not consider laying out a meal that didn't have a tater in it, now would she? I'm telling the truth there. So that's what we're gonna do, but this one's kind of an updated dish that Grandmama may have done in her later years. And I've got some frozen hash browns in the freezer, and I've got a pot. Gertie's head is laying right where I'm gonna have to stand. I hope I don't get her nose. All right. I've got my boiling water, and I'm gonna just put these hash browns in the boiling water, and I'm gonna let them cook for about 5 minutes. And then over here in this bowl, I have some herb-flavored instant potatoes. I've got butter. I've got softened cream cheese. Sound delicious already, don't they? I've got some jack cheese. And I've got some sour cream. I've got some garlic salt. Potatoes are not good if they don't have the salt in them, so you want to make sure you season those up good. And while I'm waiting on those to heat up, I'm going to take our casserole dish with a little softened butter. I'm just going to wipe our dish down with it. All right. And I think those potatoes are ready. Now I'm just gonna dump those in our colander because we want to make sure that we get all the water out of them. I'm gonna turn that eye back on. So I've turned this eye back on. Now what I'm gonna do is throw those potatoes in there and just let that water that's in them evaporate. That'll help just absorb that water and pull that water out of it so it won't go into our casserole. All right, I'm going to dump our potatoes in there. Okay, now I've got all those ingredients mixed together. All we have to do now is add a liquid to our potato dish. And I'm just going to use water. And I'm going to measure up 2 cups. Perfect. I'm just going to stir that in. All right, those looks real good, and I see that. jack cheese kind of stringing in there. Now I'm going to just transfer these potatoes to our dish. All right. Now I'm going to put this into the oven, and I'm going to bake this for about 45 minutes. 350 preheated oven. All right, we're going in with this. And when we come back, I'm going to be frying up my Grandma Paula's fried chicken, so y'all don't go anywhere. On our mashed potato bake. Now at this point, all we have to do is put our onion rings on top. And you'll want to be real careful that these don't burn. So all it needs is about 5 more minutes. And while those are cooking, let's come over here to the refrigerator and get out the chicken, because the recipes are just getting better and better and better as the show goes on. Now, this time, I'm actually going to use my grandmother's recipe. Well, my grandmother didn't deep fry her chicken. Grandma put the lid on her chicken after it started browning, and she would steam it. So I'm going to take our chicken and I'm going to roll it in the egg. And this has got lots of salt and pepper on it. So I'm going to throw it over here into the flour. You'll want to make sure that your dark meat has a little bit longer to cook, because your white meat cooks very, very quickly, where your dark meat takes a little bit longer. All right, now I'm going to start adding the chicken, and you can see I'm starting with the dark meat, which is your legs and thighs. I've got to get the goop off my hands, y'all. And you can see I've got my pan pretty full. If I was trying to fry 3 pieces of chicken, the heat wouldn't get distributed through it like it should. All right, so I'm going to let that brown, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to whip together some cucumbers and onions real quickly. And there's just nothing to it. It's just a regular cucumber peeled, or you can leave the peeling on if you like. So I like to get it all off. And my mother would fix these every day for my daddy when he came home for lunch during the summer months. And then we're just going to add onions and parsley. And I'm just going to cover this with white vinegar. It's delicious with black-eyed peas and mashed potatoes and fried chicken. You just got that little bit of twang to go along with the sweetness of that fried chicken meat. So that's all we have to do. In fact, I'm not even going to bother refrigerating mine. I'm just going to sit it back there because I really like mine at room temperature. So let's check on our chicken. This is looking just like my grandma's pot. All right, now I'm going to turn that down. I'm just going to cover that chicken, cut it down, and let it steam. Oh, crap. Mashed potatoes. I forgot about them. Oh, but they're all right. They're all right. They're fine. Ooh, that scared me. I just knew I had burned those onions after I told y'all not to do that. Okay, you can see how nice and soft that chicken looks. It's beautiful chicken. All right, and I'm going to drain it right here for a second. And there's nothing like fried chicken gravy. All right, so I'm going to need only about 2 or 3 tablespoons of oil. It really depends on how much gravy you want to make. Then we're just going to stir that flour up in our drippings from our chicken. We're just going to brown that off, and I'm going to add some salt, And you'll want to scrape your pan and get all those little pieces of chicken and gravy. All right, I think we're safe to add our water. It's ready to plate, I think. Let's bring our chicken over here and put on this platter. Oh, that chicken's hot. Ooh, doesn't that gravy look good? Y'all know I don't think I ever met a chicken that I didn't like because I love it all. And I think I'm gonna put a little gravy on my mashed potato bake. Look at those mashed potatoes and those onion rings and that gravy. That could almost make me cry. Just makes me think of, you know, family that I no longer have and miss today. But through their recipes and the things that they instilled in my heart, they're still with me today. So I'm going to work on this plate, and when we come back, I'm going to be making my Grandma Paula's red velvet cake to finish off this delicious meal. So y'all don't leave me. All right, y'all. I'm glad to see you came back. I'm putting on these gloves because I love my grandma's red velvet cake, but it calls for food coloring. So I'm gonna put these gloves on just to make sure I don't have red hands when I'm through. All right, we're gonna start with 2 sticks of softened butter and 2 cups of sugar. And we're just gonna beat these up until they're smooth, and then I'm gonna be adding 1 egg at the time. All right. I'm gonna come over here now. I've got 2½ cups of cake flour. I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of cocoa to our flour, and I'm just gonna kind of stir those together. And right here I have a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda and a tablespoon of vinegar. And you can see how that foamed up, the reaction of the 2 ingredients. All right, I'm gonna make sure that these are stirred up well together. I'm gonna pour that in there. And now I'm gonna start adding the flour and the cocoa alternately with the buttermilk. So this works very, very well. So here we go. And the last bit of flour and cocoa. Now you can see that the color of our batter is a light chocolate. Just 2 tablespoons of cocoa change the color of it that much. Well, speaking of color, we're really fixing to change that color now. I'm going to do this very, very slowly. Okay, now we're ready to divide it up. Now I have found that I can do it more consistently if I use some type of measuring cup. All right, now I'm gonna put these in a preheated oven at 350 degrees, and depending on the size of your cake pan, will determine how long you're going to bake them. But you want to bake them until the center, if you touch the center, it springs back, or until it's ever so slightly pulling away from the side of the pan. So I've got them all ready, and we're going to put them in our oven. And you'll want to make sure that your pans don't touch each other. You'll want to give them plenty of room so that the heat can circulate around your pans. All right, well, while our cake's baking, I'm going to make the icing. I've got a 1/8 ounce package of cream cheese that's softened, and 1 stick of softened butter. And I'm just going to cream these two things together. And I'm going to add some marshmallows that I just heated and melted in the microwave. All right, now I'm going to add 1 16-ounce box of powdered sugar. All right. Now I'm going to fold in a cup of sweetened shredded coconut and a cup of chopped pecans. This looks so yummy. All right, so we're ready to ice our cake now. And you'll want to make sure when you're making this cake and using this frosting that your cake is completely cooled. Because if you try to put this on a hot cake, it will melt the icing and you'll have a big mess. It'll go everywhere. So our cake is nice and cool. I've got my wax paper to keep our edges clean. Now I've put a little dab of our frosting in the center of our cake plate because I don't want our cake to move around on us. So that will make him stick. So I'm just going to try to divide our frosting evenly between these 3 layers. All right, and then we're going to take our next layer. And if he gets to leaning, don't be afraid to get your fingers in there and straighten him back up. Okay, here we go. Okay, that looks so good. All right, to really give this cake a festive look at Christmas time, the touch of holly and berries make it so pretty and so festive. Not only is it beautiful, it tastes wonderful. And speaking of taste, I don't have time to taste this right now because I've got to clean this up, and then I'm going to be back with some tips. And I'm going to taste this cake before this 30 minutes is up. So I'll see y'all in a few minutes. Do y'all love scrapbooking as much as I do? I don't know of anybody that doesn't have a special recipe that was in their grandmother's handwriting or their mother's handwriting that you don't want to let anything happen to. So why should we not place all of our recipes into a scrapbook? Now this particular recipe was given to me by Jamie and Bobby's Aunt Sarah. And I have a picture of her, and I'm going to put it right here on the scrapbook page along with the recipe. But I love this one right here. This is Grandmother Paula's sour cream pound cake. And that looks so pretty. I had such a great time doing this. I hope that you'll try this and like it. I think you will, especially if you're a scrapbooker like me. Look at this table full of beautiful food. And these recipes were passed down to us It just gave me a warm feeling inside to prepare all the food for this show today. It put me back in touch with people that I miss so badly. My grandmother's fried chicken, it was so heavenly and so delicious. When I bit into it, it was just like I was back at my grandmother's table. My Grandma Paul's red velvet cake. Look how pretty that looks. I was so lucky to have the parents and grandparents that I had. So I want to encourage y'all to go to your grandmothers and your mothers and ask them to teach you all that they know so that when they have to leave, the recipes don't have to go with them. Until next time, America, I send you all my love and best dishes from my kitchen to yours.